Hi, and welcome to that time of the week when the stars come out to play and waffle away to the main man, the top banana, the big kahuna, the Waffle Meister himself, Mr. Steve Blacknell.
Yes, indeed, it's Steve Blacknell here with The Waffle Show, recently described in the national press as The Waffle Show. But now, have a look at this. Now, there you go. Now, the chap on the left I recognise. Oh, that's me, I think, yeah. And the bloke on the right, well, he looks a bit like, where's that chap? It is Russell Grant. Russ, it's you. Hello.
Steve, it's been so long. And you know, I have to be honest, I don't even remember why we were doing that in drag.
That was because that was the BBC pantomime that we did for breakfast time when I was the pop guy and you were astrologizing. And we did it with Emlyn Hughes and footballers and Debbie Greenwood and Mike Smith. And and we had to learn words and we did a dance together in a ballroom.
Why do I not see? It must be somewhere out there on the ether of you and me being a double act.
Yeah, and it was quite disgraceful to look at, actually. It put people off their breakfast, I can tell you.
It led strictly for me, Steve.
Well, it did. I suppose it did. And how are you now? You've had a bit of a rough time recently. How are you feeling now?
Yeah, not too bad, to be honest with you. I had going back to 2019, which I have to because I looked at my own astrological chart and I was going to enter a rough time. I thought losing my dad and then losing my mum was the rough time, which of course it was. But then I got told I had a pituitary brain tumour, went into denial for a year, eventually had the operation, 6-7 hours on the slab, a wonderful surgeon. And my friend Russell Watson, the opera singer, he had exactly the same pituitary tumour, so he helped me through it. But it leaves you, well, without a pituitary gland, you don't make any hormones, so you are basically on meds for the rest of your life. But being positive about it, I'm still here and I'm talking to you, and I don't feel too bad. A bit more tired, but I am 75, brain tumour or not.
You look great. You look great, Russ. You look good. Then let's go back and doing a bit of research. I mean, I've known you all these years. I didn't realise really that you started life, certainly going back as an actor. And was it right you were in Tom Brown's school days?
Yeah, I was with Simon Le Bon, Keith Chegwin, Chris Gard. We were at the Cambridge Theatre in London. I trained at the Daphne Davies School of Drama. And in fact, it was an outreach, a kind of campus of LAMDA. And so we used to take all of our exams up at the LAMDA headquarters in Talgarth Road in Hammersmith. And I did a load of stuff. I mean, there may be a lot of people who remember things like On the Buses, Doctor in the House, Fenn Street Gang. I was in all of those.
No.
And then I went onto the West End stage with Tom Brown's School Days.
Right.
And in fact, just before that, my very first pantomime was in 1969 at the New Theatre Cardiff. And I then went to become a redcoat up in Ayr, and that lovely part of Scotland that overlooks Ailsa Crag. And then I was kind of discovered. I went into the West End. I played Slugger Williams, which in the book of Tom Brown's School Days is Darcy. And then from there, I went into Hans Andersen, the musical, with Tommy Steele. And in fact, I became his understudy and worked with the most wonderful people, including the great Gillian Lynn, the choreographer, who's just had a theatre named after her.
Oh, lovely.
So my whole background is really theatre, but astrology was a hobby. I used to do that whilst waiting for the curtain to go up.
I was going to say, so it's quite a switch, Russ, from being on stage with the lights on you, talking about, the signs of the zodiac. Was that overnight, or? But as you say, it was a hobby then. But when did you say goodbye to the footlights and hello to that?
Well, really, I was about 25. I would say that what really kicked it off was in 1978, in March 1978, I was asked to present an astrological chart in public to the Queen Mother. And that was the first time I was told by the papers, because it was at the Ideal Home exhibition run by the Daily Mail. And I was told I was the first astrologer to be presented in public to royalty since Elizabeth I.
Good Lord.
So Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, I did her chart, and really that opened the floodgates when about 4 or 5 months later, I don't know if you remember Steve Leahy, the great games producer up at Granada.
Oh, Action Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I worked with Stephen on a few things.
There you are.
Yeah.
Well, he then rang me up that same year, 1978, and said, would you come on a show called Live from 2? And it was with Shelley Roeder, who was presenting it. And I said, yes, will you send me a script, thinking it was going to be some great, sitcom or something. He went, you are the astrologer, aren't you? And from that moment on, I never looked back, and I became asked for by all kinds of people to come and do astrology. And then, of course, the big break came. Well, I suppose in 1980, I was working with Greg Dyke at London Weekend Television on the 6 o'clock show with Michael Aspel and Danny Kelly and Janet Street Porter. And that then led me to Breakfast Time and the BBC. And that was, of course, as we know, in 1983, and my career just took off. I mean, long before the days of social media and all the other things. And so that was the big break. And then in a strange kind of way, in 2011, I was asked to do Strictly Come Dancing. And that took me back into theatre, because when I finished Strictly Come Dancing, I was asked to take over from Michael Crawford at the London Palladium. And I took over from Michael Crawford as the wizard in The Wizard of Oz. And that was a call from Andrew Lloyd Webber, who asked me. Then I went into Greece and played Teen Angel.
That was painful.
Abby and Vincent and I did Midnight Tango at the Phoenix Theatre. And then the big show for me, and the one I still love to this day, where I played Edna in Hairspray. And so it's a kind of a full circle, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, our paths must have crossed, because I did stuff with the 6 o'clock show in 1980.
You must have done then, because Greg was a researcher, Greg Dyke.
Well, Greg, I worked with Greg several times, and it's so funny our paths didn't cross then until we met at Breakfast Time. Just a word about Breakfast Time. It was an amazing time for us, wasn't it? I had the pleasure these days I teach television presenting, and I learned everything from Frank Boss, everything, sitting next to him every morning. And that was a whole experience, wasn't it, with that team of Titch Marsh and Francis Wilson and Bob Wilson. It were great days, weren't they?
They were great days, and it was all because of one great man, the best exec I ever worked with, Ron Neal.
Ron Neal, yes.
Ron Neal was our, you could call him almost an Alex Ferguson of Breakfast Time, because they're both Aberdonians. And he was just amazing, because there came a time, of course, when it was very controversial to have television on. And there was a big wave of people who said, you need to get that astrologer off and get a God slot on. Yeah. And Ron Neal actually said to Alasdair Milne, who was then the Director General, if Russell Grant goes, I go. And he saved me. And Tony Crabb, who, as you know, was working as one of the main managers, he came up to me one day and said, could you let me know how much post you're getting? Bring me a day's worth of your post. This is really true. And I took him a big box of my post. He said, I only want a day, not a week. And I said, that is a day. I was getting 1,000 letters a day, Steve.
Yeah, incredible. I got about 10 a day saying get off. But Ron Neal, I remember, is quite dictatorial, but an incredible man, and it was a great team. And I don't know if you ever. I've just got to tell this story that round the corner from BBC Centre, there was a wine bar that opened at 9 a.m. on a Friday morning. And I don't know whether you used to come with us, but
no.
Well, but we would all go down there and be plastered by midday.
That was Balzac, wasn't it?
Was it called that? Yeah, I think it was. It's gone now. Yeah, it's probably a cigarette centre now. But anyway, they were great days. But let's go back to astrology, Russ. And I mean, I'm not cynical by nature, but a lot of people would actually say, how can you divide the population into 12? You just can't do that. You can't. So explain to me the logic behind it, because I've never actually known.
No, well, astrology is basically, although I do sun sign astrology, which is the 12 signs of the zodiac, and funnily enough, we were talking just now about a full circle. I've now gone back to doing exactly what I was doing on BBC Breakfast Time, but now on social media, right? Instagram, TikTok, what have you. And so the sun sign element is there in websites, in newspapers, because that's the only way you can do it. However, if you have your chart done, you're not just looking at your sun sign, which is the one everybody knows, but your moon sign, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Because certainly the fast-moving planets like Mercury and the moon are going to change very, very quickly, which is why not all people are the same.
Yeah.
Not all Virgos are the same.
Well, I'm a Virgo.
That's why I said it.
Yeah, you remember, yeah.
Right.
I
don't know whether I remembered or not, but I just know that my opening line of my book, The Sun Signs, your sun signs is, you'll always know a Virgo because they're always skeptical about astrology. And then I say, what the hell are you doing reading?
Oh, you got me again.
But basically, it takes everything into account, your date, time, and place of birth, but also your upbringing. I was brought up mainly by my grandparents, because my mum and dad, it was just after the war, 1951, and my mum and dad were working full-time at Pinewood Studios in the movie industry. So my grandmother basically brought me up. And if you look at my chart, you will see that Saturn, which is the old age planet, is very much very powerful. So you have to take into account date, time, and place of birth, and all of those various things, because that is what makes you an individual. And astrology for me is not prediction. It is about your potential as an individual. So therefore, if you tune into what you are capable of, the gifts and talents that you have within you can be brought out if you know about them. And astrology is therefore that science, and the art is in the interpretation of bringing out the best in you, the creative side of you, what makes you tick, your heart and soul.
And when you're out in public, Russ, how do people view you? Do they see you as the chap from Breakfast Time? Did they see you as the astrologer, or just a jolly chap? How do the public see you these days?
Well, certainly in the 1980s and 1990s, because from Breakfast Time I went on with Richard and Judy this morning. So I was doing a lot there. So people would come up to you absolutely anywhere and go, oh, can you tell me what it's like for my sign today?
Yeah.
But the big change was Strictly, because it introduced me to a brand new and very young audience. So I remember coming out the Palladium stage door after the first night of The Wizard of Oz, and I was surrounded by dance schools. young people from all over the country, and I ended up doing a lot of cruise ships like the Britannia and the Oceana. I ended up teaching Latin dance.
Wow.
So I ended up teaching samba, cha-cha, and salsa. my whole life changed career. So in the end, I was going into the local shops and people were saying, can we do a samba with you? It was hilarious, and I had the best of times with Strictly, and it brought me back to what I loved.
That's right, and brought you back into the public eye, which you totally deserve to be, and showbiz, which you and I both love. And so what is next? Give us a quick plug about your astrology online stuff. Then where can we find you online?
Well, mainly I would call them the main channels.
Yep.
Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube I've just started on, and X. And so I film one particular piece, and I still don't understand the algorithms, why over Christmas I got 2 million views for the year ahead, and then you can suddenly put another piece up and you only get 5,000. I wish someone would tell me how that works, because I have no idea.
It must be in the stars, Russ. Must be in the stars.
It can't always be Mercury retrograde, because he does go direct at times. I think it's more about they want to control us.
Yeah.
But that's another story.
All I know is, Russ, is that my mother, who passed a couple of years ago, would ring me once a week, having read you in the paper, and she'd always tell me what you said. And bless her, it meant the world to her. I mean, I'm quite choky now. You meant the world to her. You really did. And she believed she lived by it. She lived by it. And although I might be a cynical Virgo, I'm an old hippie at heart. And I began to run with it as well. I'm looking forward to my mum calling me about Russell Grant. So,
you're a cynical Virgo you may be, but we wouldn't have you any other way, Steve.
Well, you've got to have black. Without dark, there's no light. So you've got to have both.
And we do want to put a lot of light out there. I certainly do with my stars. You said about things being positive. If you're only doing sun sign stars, then it has to be more positive, because you haven't got the full astrological picture. So if I can give people some guidance and then they go off and do something positive with their lives, my work is done.
Russell Grant, both of you, thank you so much. It's been a delight to see you again, and many happy years ahead, and I hope we meet soon.
And me, Steve. Thank you for inviting me on. Absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Russ.
You're watching Spectrum on Air, XPTV3.
And welcome back to the Waffle Show with me, Steve Blacknell. Now, a gentleman who is revered. That's a word I can spell. Revered he is. And it's a delight to welcome Michael Mansfield KC to the Waffle. Michael, thanks so much for coming.
And I've worn the badge of honour, which you gave one of the actual waffles, yeah.
That's the real waffle lunch, and I have a great picture of you online somewhere with you holding aloof a toilet roll that you won in one of the raffles.
Yes, it was a giveaway by you.
It was indeed, yeah. I was going to sell it to you, but as it's you. Let's go way back. If I'm correct, 1967 was it that you joined the bar? And I don't mean drinking bar. Tell us about the bar and what that means to someone, all those years ago.
Right, I don't want to sound like John Cleese in a shoebox, when I was a boy and all that, but I was in a very different environment. 2 up, 2 down in North Finchley in London. And in those days there were fields and it was a different environment physically, but I came from a railway family. My father expected me to end up on the railways. He was never quite sure which bit of the rail he wanted me on, but I used to have wonderful experiences as a young man with him, because he was a controller of the London North Eastern Railway and the Great Northern and so on. And he would have the privilege, I suppose, in a sense, to have a ride on a footplate of a steam train leaving King's Cross or Euston. And occasionally I was allowed to go with him. So we'd nip on at King's Cross or Euston, which was mainly King's Cross, on these wonderful engines, which I have to say still capture my heart. They're brilliant. because I used to be, oh my goodness, people are going to say, I think next he collected stamps, did he? I collected, train numbers, they're going to say. Standing on the bridge at Oakley Park, as the steam trains come through the tunnel, and you get what's called the Doppler effect. In other words, the movement and the sound don't match quite. So one goes before the other. You're covered in smoke and grit. But sometimes I go with my father in the engine and we get off at Potter's Bar to go back again. And that's how he got to know all the engine drivers and all the rest of it. So I was expected to either go into control or signalling or driving an engine or whatever. And railways were at the end of our garden where we lived in North. In fact, it was Whetstone rather than Finchley. But so I thought I was bound for a very, very different kind of background.
So did you have to persuade your father, forgive the pun, to go on a different track, as it were?
Well, no, because he died.
Oh.
Rather early. I mean, he was disabled from the First World War, which links into the politics that I'm involved in right now. He served in Palestine, on part of General Allenby's army, which was there to liberate Palestine, of all things. And of course, a big issue now. But I was brought up with his view of what was going on, the Balfour Declaration, all those things, that the usual perfidious Albion behavior by Balfour and selling the Arabs down the river and all the rest of it. He was very angry about all that. But he was disabled. So, in fact, it was difficult for him to do all the things he wanted to do. So I think in his case, he was living his life a bit through me. So I think he'd be thrilled, my mother particularly. And I think the reason I'm sitting here today is partly through my mum. And I tell this story occasionally because it's in the book, The Power of the People, Not the People in Power, if anybody wants to buy it. Anyway, yes, I am still promoting it in a way where I can. But in case you haven't read the book, I'll make the story short, otherwise it's the rest of the program. But people love it. And I didn't realize how important it was till the publisher said, you must tell people why you are doing what you're doing and not driving an steam engine. And my mother, because my father was disabled, as I've just said, he'd lost a leg in the I always found that odd when he said, I've lost a leg, Anyway, I've lost a leg in the First World War. And my mother, every Thursday, North London, Whetstone, goes to Sainsbury's to get what we were rationed. So you'd only get a certain amount of meat and all the rest of it. Anyway, she's a very careful woman. She'd take my father to look after the car while she goes into the shop. One particular Thursday, obviously a local bobby who was a bit short of work, goes along. Unbeknown to my mother, she gets a summons through the post for parking between the studs of a pedestrian crossing. Now, that is a heinous crime, as you know.
Yes.
Right. Well, then she says, I never do that. I wouldn't break the law. I'm God-fearing. They were Tory voters. They voted for Margaret Thatcher. All that. They're quite different to, me and all what happened to me. But however, she said, I'm not accepting this. And everybody said, Marjorie, relax, stop it. Don't worry about it. And she said, I'm not going to be convicted of something I never did. So I wasn't alive to this. She told me afterwards, and I learned very quickly what had happened. So she goes to court, and I can just see her going to court in a long raincoat, one of those plastic hats you wear over your head, and a pair of gloves and a handbag. And she turns up, and of course, she's amongst drunks and God knows what at Highgate Magistrates Court. That's where the case was heard, I think, originally. She gets there, and the magistrates haven't had a parking offence challenged. So she goes in, tells the story. She's got a witness. It's Perry Mason style. My father comes in. Police officer hadn't realised he was sitting in the car. Father's disabled. You can see it all. Honours from the First World War. Mother Marjorie acquitted. That's it. And she says to me, there you are, Michael. Be careful. Don't accept what they say. And if it's however small, if it matters to you as part of your identity and your integrity, You challenge, you fight. And at the time I thought, she's being a bit over the top over this. And every time we went out in the car, and it wasn't very often, she said, there's one over there. And I said, what? She'd say a blue bottle. She always called all police officers blue bottles. So
that's right. Yeah.
And so actually it was that inspiration that kind of made me feel much later on, after Father died, that maybe I could do this job. And it was a TV series, American series, father and son, who called The Defenders.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
I watched that avidly in that period. I don't think it's ever been reshown, but they did an English version of the same thing with somebody playing me in the series.
So let's sort of jump forward a little bit. You're known now as someone who wants to kick the system, as it were. And I'm just wondering, I mean, after all the cases you've done, the Stephen Lawrence case, I mean, the list just goes on and on and on, doesn't it? But so your thoughts, I mean, I read somewhere that governments that defy the rule of law and stuff, that really gets up your nose. And I was just wondering, just off the top of my head, how you view what's going on in America, because that seems to me that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, I am desperately concerned about the present situation, which is, you know, I always look back and think it was worse then, but I've got a feeling it's far worse now than it was when I started. I think we've got an oppressive state at the moment, and there's another one in America, and they're not the only places where there are oppressive states. And the ability for individuals to be heard and for their voices to be acted upon is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think at the very moment, with the attack on juries by this government and the idea that they will cut that by half, and the jury system is pretty fundamental as far as I'm concerned. And the attacks on free speech, such that you now have the risk you might be categorized as a terrorist if you say certain things, with a possibility of prison sentence and so on. It has to be tackled. And I think where governments internationally, and where I am concerned, and Palestine comes back into this picture, but it's not only Palestine, is after the Second World War, we set up the United Nations to have some kind of regulation of our lives and respect for the rule of law. Gone. And in fact, Trump's not interested. And if he thinks he wants Greenland, he'll take it. And if he thinks he wants Panama, he'll take it. And, you know, I have very strong views about, I'm afraid, Mr. Trump. He's on another planet, so needs an astrologer quickly.
Oh, that's a good idea. Russ, where are you?
Exactly.
So what goes on inside?
I think the British government are the same. Yeah. They are ignoring the rule of law. They've been colluding with the arms industry supplied to Israel and so on. So, and the genocide, even if it's not been proved at the International Court of Justice yet, but there is a case going on. People have forgotten that it's still going on. It takes a long time, unfortunately. But there's no question in my mood that every time we switch television on, thousands of innocent citizens, not competent, are being massacred. And I think it hasn't stopped. Because in fact, we're looking elsewhere at the moment because there are other problems, Venezuela, earthquakes and so on. So I think my concern is that in my lifetime, I've seen the value of international cooperation and respect for the law devalued.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not political in any way, but it certainly churns my stomach, I can tell you. To the lighter side of Michael Mansfield, Desert Island Discs a while back, I can't think of the year offhand, but it was a while ago.
1937, I think.
It wasn't 1937. That's nearly 22/8, isn't it? But anyway, it was some years ago. That your choice was amazing. You had, I think, Benjamin Zephaniah in there. You had a bit of Elgar. You had the Goons. And you had Pink Floyd. And I know that there's a story about you and the drummer Nick Mason. I know it's quite a long story, but if you can just tell us in a sort of edited version about... because you're a drummer at heart, aren't you?
I am a drummer at heart, and I had good fortune because his children and mine went to the same primary school in North London. That's how I got to know him. But I didn't know when I first met him, I didn't know who he was. You know, like the judicial, do tell me about that. You know, I haven't heard of who the pink what. But he never talked about what he did, and I didn't talk much about what I did. And we had, you know, pleasant lunchtimes or whatever together, his family and my family at that time. And one day I was doing, as you say, I do love drumming. I'm not very good at it, but I do like doing it. And I still got a drum kit in one piece. And he said, can I turn some music on? And he did. And I started playing drums with my fingers on the table where we were sitting. And he looked at me and he said, do you like drumming? And I said, yeah. Do you then? And I won't tell the rest of it because he goes on. I dig a hole about 50 miles deep, not knowing who he is. And he said,
brilliant.
Would you like I said, you've got a drum kit here. You know, and of course he's got more than one drum kit. And of course, when we go to where he's got the drum kit, there are these posters. And I go, oh my God, I've been sitting with, talking with, and I think he enjoyed that. Because most people who knew who he was, he said, they're always wanting something from me, but you never asked for anything. You didn't, and even when you knew who I was, you never asked for anything. But he did. He got me some tickets to go and see The Wall.
Yeah,
I thought that took my breath away.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, and of course Nick Mason. There's other stories of that, but I did see on Desert Island Disc the one thing you'd take would be a drum kit.
Yeah.
so literally, you'd be happy just banging the bugger all day long.
Yeah, and in fact, it doesn't need plugging in, so I don't need electricity. I just need good rhythm. Well, I've got reasonable rhythm. And one thing I used to do, I don't do it anymore, but in the early days when I was facing some fairly difficult judges, let's put it that way. At the end of the day, you have to be contained and you have to maintain an equilibrium in court. So somewhere you've got to let it all go. So when I go home in those days, that's talking right near the beginning of the day, I was so pent up with, you know, what had been going on, that one of the ways I released it was on the drum kit. Yep. And I would draw a face on the kit of the judge who I've been in front of, and I would keep beating it until it faded.
Oh, there's banging on, really, just banging on.
Yes.
And hitting him. That's so funny, man. But I mean, you mentioned you're 80 plus. You seem like a child to me, and you know what I mean. You have this lovely innocence about you. Yet within that innocence, you still have that burning inside. Yeah, that passion. Do you find the older you get, the more intense it is?
Yes. Oh, it's worse. You know, than it ever was. I mean, worse in the sense that I'm galvanized into action over these various things. You know, whether it be in the legal profession or outside. Because I feel that I have an obligation, I feel I've got an obligation to impart a certain positivism and enthusiasm, because it's a very depressing time, can be, the cost of living, the wars that are going on, the ecological difficulties, environmental threats are so enormous that people are having to face, that it seems to me providing some sort of, and that's what the book's about, really, that I wrote. We're very short, but it was intended to say, you have to take control of your own lives in as much as you can, and don't believe they want you to think you've got nothing to give, no control over anything, and they want you to feel in a way impoverished. Whereas what I want to do is to say, well, people have got enormous resources and resilience. And in the book, I try and say, look, people who've been far worse positioned than me, they've been inside for whether Birmingham 6 for 16 years, or the Hillsborough families, or the Grenfell families, all of which I've represented, obviously. And they have been through hell and high water. And then we've got the post office scandal as well, and infected blood. You look everywhere, there are these causes of injustice, and they have to be supported. And at the end of the day, they're supported by the little light that keeps burning in somebody's heart. That keeps it going. And that's the challenge to government. It'll never come from inside government. In a sense, the politicians have a form of corruption of their own.
But of course, some of these things will never be resolved. I know that you took on the Jill Dando case, and I was with Jill the night before she was murdered.
I didn't know.
I think I may have told you years ago, but I was with her because we had the same agent who was then writing a novel about an agent who kills a client. And anyway, we go way back there, but that's still unresolved. I mean, and is this a frustration to you? Things like that. You have to leave a case without it being, resolved in the very sense of the word.
Yes, I mean, I know there are two journalists at the moment who I think working for the Daily Mirror who are uncovering all sorts of material which they're submitting to the police, because the police are still, I think, being obdurate about this and turning their face against it on the basis, well, it's closed. Somebody was convicted. Well, that person actually might have been convicted wrongly in the first place, and therefore eventually he was acquitted, as he should have been. But yes, it disturbs me at the time when he was convicted, and I remember the case. It's like yesterday.
Yeah.
When the jury came back, we were devastated. A lot of people were devastated because I think everybody thought there's not going to be a conviction here, but there was. And I remember I was due to meet various people, and I said, I don't want to meet anybody. And you can't say anything in court, you can't do anything. So this time, instead of beating a drum, I decided I was going to walk home. Now, walking from the Old Bailey I was living in Clapham at the time, it's quite a way, 13 miles, because I used to cycle it as well. And I thought, I'm going to walk home. How has this happened? And every footstep of the way on the pavement, I was kind of reworking and thinking, because the moment you don't do a re-analysis, it may seem post-mortem of the case. I don't want to be self-satisfied. I've got to ask the questions. What's gone wrong? Is it something I've done? What have I done that's wrong? And all the way home, and it took a long time to, as it were, reconcile, until obviously we won the appeal, and he eventually got acquitted. Another barrister did the trial. So it's yes is the short answer. Yeah.
So, Michael Mansfield KC, how long will you be able to do this, do you think, physically and mentally? I mean, there's an old stupid expression that we say, well, I'm not going to retire, the business retires me, which is a bit slap-handed and a bit stupid. But will you just go on until you can't do any more?
It's just like the thing on the coffee cup, old lawyers lose their appeal. However, I'm not in that bracket.
No.
I feel that I'd be a real pain in the butt if I wasn't doing this.
Yeah.
And I do feel, it keeps certain matters that I feel are important alive, and it keeps me alive. And if I can provide a service, I want to go and do it.
Anyone who picks the goons on Desert Island Disc is all right by me, Michael.
And I love the way they told the story of the goons, how they got the name when they went to the BBC.
Yeah.
and the director, I don't know who it was at the time, says, "Oh, I see. Yes, you're the go-ons."
The go-ons, that's right. I remember, yeah. Goon, but not forgotten, as it were.
Yeah.
But listen, you'll never be forgotten, Michael, and bless you for all your work. I think we all thank you from our hearts, and thank you so much for being on the Waffle Show. Really, thank you.
It's been a joy.
Bless you, sir. Thank you very much.
You're watching Spectrum on Air, XPTV3.
And welcome back to the Waffle Show with Steve Blacknell. Now, to my knowledge, there are 3 J. Astons in the world of entertainment. One is a rugby league player in the UK. Another is in a band called Gene Loves Jezebel, right? And the other one, from Bucks Fizz, is in Fizz. She is J. Aston, and she's with us today. Hello, Jay.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, looking radiant as ever, Miss Aston. Now, this is weird. We were talking before we came on air, and you have met Russell Grant, right? And tell us the story about his predictions.
Well, it was amazing. So Russell was friends, I believe, with the lady that put the band together, Bucks Fizz, back in 1981. And he came to Eurovision. And he said, you're going to win. He predicted that we'd win.
No.
And he also predicted that we'd end up as a 3. Now, I was actually the one that left first. And at the time, because well, for a long time, Bobby was the one who was threatening to leave all the time, and it just sort of was weird that it ended up me.
Yeah.
But it was incredible that he had that. He I don't know how he did it. I mean, it was amazing. So I think that actually helped give us a bit of confidence, because when we were there, you see all the competition, you start sort of doubting a bit. I think Mike Nolan was the only one who always believed we'd win. And fortunately, the skirt rip helped, and I think we won by about 4 points.
Well done, Russell. Grow up. Well done, Bucks Fizz. Yeah, there you go. Well, Jay, let's go right back, if we may, because you always weren't a singer. You were a dancer, and you were a jobbing actor. Is that right?
Let's start. When I was a kid, I loved ballet and dance, and I got a really bad knee condition from doing too much ballet. And I was in and out of hospital, and so my dreams as a dancer, and that was classical, were kind of scuppered. And I went to Italia Conti Theatre School, and they wouldn't let me do much dance because I was still kind of healing. And that's when they pushed me into more singing, but I had to take up the drama course. So when I left Conti's, the theatre school, I did some TV series, like just bit parts, walk on, that kind of thing. But I also realised when I was at school, because I had a great singing teacher, and he'd always use me to demonstrate. He used to say, "Darling, you've got an opera top and a jazzy bottom." And so he kind of built my confidence. Because I always had a voice. My dad had a phenomenal sort of operatic voice, so I got the power from my dad. But he gave me confidence. So yeah, I ended up singing and acting more than the dancing.
So not many Fizz fans know you were in Citizen Smith. And what's the other one? Not To the Manor Born, was it?
I was in the pilot of Grange Hill.
Oh, was you really?
And one of the fans has actually found me in one of the early episodes. So I did about half a dozen, and all the kids that were in my class ended up being like the famous faces of Grange Hill. And then, classroom beside me was Lena Zavaroni and Bonnie Langford. I think as a very small child, there was Naomi Campbell. So it was like, it was a good time. It really helped bring me into showbiz, and seeing the level of competition and the diversity of talent, in a school like that.
So tell us about the rise to, what became Bucks Fizz. Was it a rugged path, an easy path to get to that point of joining a group that were going to do something?
Well, I auditioned for several years, and I seemed to have a lot of bad luck. I'd get the job and then it would be cancelled or whatever. And I sort of did years of auditioning, apart from sort of summer shows and panto, because my mum and dad were in showbiz, and I did do some dancing in that, singing and dancing. There was in a cabaret band. I did summer show in Ramsgate, end of the pier stuff, while I was 17, 18, just sort of getting experience. And I was offered, I was going to go to Monte Carlo Casino as a singer, and it got cancelled last minute. So I went to, my family live in Jersey, and I ended up as a cashier for the summer, counting coins and notes. And I was really happy, and I had a boyfriend, and I thought that was my life. And then my brother had done Eurovision, and I think he came second or third. He was in a band with Kate Robbins. Right. And I'd seen what happened there. So my brother had been in the West End, in Chorus Line, She's Quite a Superstar, Cats, that kind of thing. And anyway, I said, right, I'm going to do this one last audition, which came in, which was for Song for Europe. So we all met in the January, and by March we'd won Song for Europe, and by April we'd won Eurovision. And then the next 3 years was in and out of every country in Europe, travelled the world. We went to the Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, South America. Apart from North America, which we never broke, it was a whirlwind, and it was amazing. Our feet didn't touch the ground.
But of course, you had 3 number ones in the UK. The hits just kept on coming. Was that hard to cope with this, surprise success? Did it come easy to you, or was it a tough one to take?
The work was always easy for me. Because I'd done those years of really rotten work, you know, from whether it's dancing on a carpet in a grotty hotel or a working men's club in, say, Walthamstow, or, you know, I'd done 3 or 4 years of cabaret and done some choreography and stuff. So I felt quite, you know, the mic's going to work, the lights are going to turn on, you know, it's like the adversity sets you up for things like where you can cope with stuff. And although I hadn't really done live vocals like that, the performing was always easy, and the touring I loved. What I wasn't so good at was the social side of things, because there was a lot of competition in the band, and the band always had 2-3 camps. So I wasn't very good, being that I was 8-9 years younger than the rest of the band. So I wasn't so good at that side.
Right. But let's talk about your brother Lance. It's a big word, serendipity, one of those words I can't spell really, but serendipity. Now, let's get this right. Am I correct in saying that your brother was in Prima Donna the year or two before you in Eurovision? Is that right?
Yeah, he was in it the year before.
Year before?
In 1980.
And the other one, you were voted Miss Pearly all those years ago. Is that correct? Yeah?
It's true. I was 17.
And then you went in for Miss England, didn't win, but the band performing at half-time were a band called Coco, and in it was Cheryl Baker. Is that true?
That's true.
Good God.
And bizarrely, I was cleaning out a cupboard the other day, and I found the invite for my parents to come to the show. Of all the from 1980, I'm like, why have I kept that? Oh, look. That's the day I met Cheryl. So Cheryl, I always remember, because I remember what she wore, and she just kind of stood out. And so, so we met serendipitously before that. We met in that ladies' front room that ended up being Bucks Fizz, you know, in that last audition.
Even worse, or even better, is it right, Jay, because you never know about research, is it correct that he married Marcella Detroit? Is that correct?
My brother, yeah.
And Marcella
So she's in a band called Shakespeare's Sister.
Yeah, I love it.
And for years I've been going, we need to do another band and call it Shakespeare's Sister-in-law. But she won't have it.
Very good, very good. But Marcella, I'm in touch with. I've never met her, but she seems a really lovely girl. And of course, I knew the other half of Shakespeare's Sister all those years ago. But I loved the band. And it appears that Marcella was the one who said to you, you should write, you should do some solo stuff. Yeah.
No, it wasn't Marcy, but Marcy was quite inspiring because she was a songwriter.
Yeah.
So we did a few co-writes together.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say she inspired me to write. Andy Hill, who made multi-millions of pounds out of our bands,
yes.
Inspired me to write, because I saw then the potential of how you could change your life. You know, I mean, I remember what car he turned up in when we did the first audition to the Ferraris he had after, and that was the inspiration.
Yeah, and a few other bands too, I suppose. Yeah. So the rivalry, much publicised rivalry, that obviously didn't get in the way of Bucks Fizz being a mega band. So finally, then, after all that, we've ended up with Fizz. So was that transition painful, or was it recruiting 2 new members? That must have been a tough task.
I left the band sort of mid-80s and I set up theatre schools, and I had my own band, and I got my own publishing deal and released loads of albums. And I was quite happy teaching kids, and I think it was ITV put a show together called Pop Goes the Band, and they wanted all the original members. And at that point, the girl Shelley Preston, who'd replaced me, was in the band, and they'd sort of rekindled and done a few gigs for a few years. So that was in 2008, and by 2009 the show went live, and Shelley left, and Cheryl asked me to come back. So then we performed as the original Bucks Fizz. Now, Bobby G's wife had managed, while we were all doing other things, to get the trademark of Bucks Fizz in a time when I think it had lapsed, and we were all kind of unaware. And long story short, so we lost the use of the trademark Bucks Fizz, and we went through different versions of calling ourselves, you know, really awful versions of it with long explanations. And we ended up with the Fizz, which actually Mike Stock sort of suggested. He went, look, we've always called you the Fizz, just stick with the Fizz.
Yeah.
So, and now we've done 4 albums, and there's potentially another album in the mix with Mike Stock, new stuff. And we've just done a single with him, which I think I sent you the link of, called a song called "A Crazy Shot in the Dark" with our 2 new members.
And
so we auditioned. Mike retired. He announced it on the Michael Ball show, and he wanted to retire for a few years. And so we auditioned we had about 100 people apply. We had 17 live auditions, got down to about 6, and Nick Major and Matthew Pateman they stood out as a great couple as well, height wise, vocal wise, and they covered similarly sound wise what Mike and Bobby used to. And we've just been building it back up, so we're a 4, all the routines and the vocals are back to how it was. It's going really well.
Brilliant. Well, we'll be playing the video just in a little while. In the middle of all this, what do you get? You get a mouth problem, cancer, I believe. Now, for a singer, that's got to be the worst place to get that. It must have been awful.
Yeah. I think what happened is when my parents died quite quickly, my mum had cancer, my dad had Alzheimer's, and my dad had been ill for a long time. I've moved house twice, I had a baby, and it was a difficult time. And this thing popped up on my tongue, so quite a few years before it turned nasty. I think that was just, my health was down, and it kind of just this little, like a cobweb on my tongue. I didn't even notice it, my dentist noticed it. Unfortunately, I was getting fairly regular checks on it from the hospital. And then I think we did 3 years of intense touring, albums, pantos, still doing the school run, and it just changed. And so there was this one nurse, she said, "You're not leaving until we do a biopsy." And she might have saved my life, because I said, "I've got a gig tomorrow, I can't do that." And she said, "No, you're not leaving until we've done a biopsy." So long story short, I had 3 surgeries, one very big one in the middle. And they took, so from my neck, they took the whole base of my tongue out, and it's sewn to the bottom of my mouth. So yes, it's been a bit of a journey to learn how to sing and just talk normally again.
And that's all over. That's done. Goodbye. Yeah.
It's done. I'm signed off. I have to have a professional look in my mouth very regularly, and it's not without its long-term effects, obviously.
Sure.
But the worst bit was the first couple of years healing, because they took a piece of my leg off to replace the bottom of my tongue. So I've got quite a neat piece of leg. So it's like your leg isn't, although I didn't run a marathon, it's not quite the same as your tongue,
Absolutely, for a singer. Wow. But you're busy, and you've got a new project you want to tell us about, yeah?
Yeah, I'm putting a course together. So for the 12, 13 years, I ran different schools, mostly for kids, singing, dance and drama. And because my mum had a little school when I was a kid, so it was always something I kind of enjoyed being involved with. And I just I realised how much knowledge I have, not just from back in the day, but since I've been back in the band as well, and how technology has changed everything. So I realised I have literally like a whole degree course in my head, and I'm just going to share it. So I'm putting a course together, be 8 modules, and it will cover singing and all the normal stuff about singing, but it'll cover the industry, which is what they don't teach you at school, which is utterly vital.
Yep.
I think you've got a lawyer on your show. He'll back me up on that.
Yeah, right.
If I knew in 1980 what I know now, I'd be 12 times richer, 10 times richer easily.
Yeah.
And I would have been in better nick, health-wise.
Well, good luck with that. That sounds amazing, much needed by the sound of it. And finally then, the Fizz, you're up and well, the band are together, got a new video, everything's great, new album on the way maybe. So what's next for you? Touring? Where can we see you around the planet?
Well, we're always gigging. So if people want to find us, it's thefizzofficial.com.
Right.
We are anticipating going in the studio between now and the end of the year, with Mike. It's not definite, but it's likely. He's obviously got his musical running as well, so he's busy. But so that's that. So we just gig. If people want to see us, hopefully there'll be new music out. And it's just ticking over like it has done. It's just I think it's stronger and looks better, sounds better than ever, actually. Really good.
It's looking great, Jay. So finally, just a little message for the Fizz fans out there. What would you like to say to Fizz fans everywhere?
Well, without them, we wouldn't be where we are. Without them, you know, I'd probably be doing what I was going to do in Jersey and working or what a cashier or whatever. I'd be doing something different. So the fan base is everything, and we love them like a big family. And they've been so incredibly loyal. There's about a few hundred of them that will come to everything, you know, and then there's about 2,000 of them that support us and have done for 45 years now. So I love them so much.
Oh, it's wonderful, Jay. Great to see you in good nick. Bless you, and good luck with the Fizz. Thanks to Michael and Russ, your pal Russell, and we'll see you soon. And we're going to leave you with a bit of Fizz, the latest video from us all here at the Waffle Show. Keep waffling. See you soon.